Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crafty Couple. Today we've got some really fun Dollar Tree DIYs like the shelf that we created for just a few dollars. So if you like some of these bigger scale projects like this shelf, let us know in the comments. We'd love to do some more of those for you. But as always, we hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments which project's your favorite.
For this first project, I grabbed this cute pink candle from Dollar Tree and then also this small glass from Dollar Tree, and we're going to be using them to make kind of these geode looking planters. To give it that look, we're going to be using this crushed glass also from Dollar Tree. For this smaller glass, I didn't want it clear, so I spray painted it with this matte river rock, and then I took off all of the packaging on the candle. I couldn't really get the stickers off that well. On the opposite side, it does have another sticker, and so you can kind of use glue gun and try and get it off. The front one, I decided not to try too hard just because I'm going to be covering it with these glass pieces. For this first one, it was my first time doing this, so I kind of just placed them wherever I wanted, and it kind of doesn't matter too much what you do. You just put them on. I did the bigger shards first, and then I went in with smaller ones and put them on top so that it gave it a really nice full effect. It made it look really beautiful. For the next one, I do it a little bit differently so that it works just a little bit better, because here in a little bit I'm going to be going over with some gold paint just to make it look just a little bit better, a little bit more high-end. And I did that after I put all of these glass pieces on. In the other one, I do the shape first and then I do the glass pieces. As you can see, you just kind of keep building it up so that you fill in all of the gaps, and it just looks very beautiful. I don't have any paint markers that would work, which would be so much easier than what I'm doing here. So I just used some gold spray paint that we had and sprayed it into a cup, and then I'm going to be going around. A marker would probably work a lot better. This, I had to do a few layers, and the brush made it so that there was brush strokes. And so if you can find a gold pen that's this vibrant and not dull, I would definitely use that instead. And like I said earlier, I went in with the gold after on this first one and went around. It doesn't give it a bad look, but it's just kind of a different look. The second one does look a little bit different, and you can compare those here in a few minutes. This is how the candle ended up looking. Let me know in the comments what you think about it below. And now that this gray one has dried, I do wish it was a little bit darker gray, almost looking kind of like a rock, but I still think this looked super pretty. So I'm going to be drawing the shape first and then putting the shards on. So I did kind of a different shape as well, making it look more just like a piece. So I just went across the whole entire side, and then I'm going to be making that line quite a bit thicker. This one, I decided to use these blue shards instead, and I think they look super pretty. And just like I did on the first one, you'll want to just put them all over. I started again with bigger pieces and kind of just put them all over, and then went in with the smaller ones and put them on top and filled in all of the gaps. You will want to make sure the rocks get really close to that gold line so that none of the gray in the middle is showing. This is what it looks like finished. Let me know in the comments below if you guys liked the pink one more or if you liked the blue one.
For this project, we're going to be creating kind of an industrial shelf, and this is one of my favorite projects using Dollar Tree items, so hopefully you guys like it as well. First thing we're going to do is use some of these 8x10 canvas frames, and go ahead and remove the canvas. We're just going to be painting these wood frames. I'm using some watered down Waverly ink chalk paint, and once those are painted, go ahead and set them aside and we'll let those dry while we move on to the next part. For the actual shelf part, we're going to be using some of these jumbo craft sticks from Walmart. They're quite a bit bigger than the ones that you can get from Dollar Tree, and we're going to be using 2 packs of these rectangle wood planks that you can get from Dollar Tree. The first thing that we're going to do is glue these together with these craft sticks, and I would leave a little bit more room on the end here. As you can see, this actually goes past the edge, so I had to cut it off. But leave a little bit of a gap if you can. So just slide these over when you're gluing them down so you don't have to worry about cutting that. That will help out later when we add some of the tumbling tower blocks. So once we've glued 3 of those together, we're just going to do the same thing. Glue 3 more together with these craft sticks, and then we'll glue those 2 pieces together to create the top part or bottom part of our shelf. And as you can see right here on the second one, I actually glued these craft sticks over quite a bit more. So on the end there, you can see there's a gap between the craft stick and the edge of the wood plank. And then to glue these together, I'm just going to slide them as close as I can, and then I'm going to put quite a bit of hot glue on there and glue down another craft stick on those seams, and then just do that on the other side as well. And once you've completed this whole process, that's going to create one side of our shelf. So you'll want to repeat that process so that you'll have a top and a bottom piece. This next part, we're going to hold up one of these crafting sticks on the edge of our shelf and go ahead and mark that on the width. Cut it, and then this right here is going to add a lot of volume to our shelf. Instead of just having those wood planks glued together and using that as our shelf, we're going to make this thicker and look like more just a solid piece of wood. So what I'm doing here is adding some tumbling tower blocks to the edge. This is why you want to leave a gap between the original craft sticks and the edge of our wood planks so that you can glue those down. This is going to allow you more space to glue our crafting stick down. Instead of just trying to glue it to the edge of the wood planks, now we have the wood plank and the tumbling tower block to glue that down. So it's going to be a lot more structurally sound and secure on there. And all we're going to do is the same exact process on the other side with the craft stick and the tumbling tower blocks. So the next part, and this is why I decided to go with the Walmart craft sticks since they're bigger, we want to line this up with the edge again and then measure over to where our first plank ends, and then we're going to cut that. So if we went with Dollar Tree craft sticks, we'd have to use a lot more on the front. They're not quite as thick, and I just don't think it would look quite as good versus these ones. We can cut to the exact length that our wood planks are, and they'll line up with that, and it'll look a lot cleaner in the end. Now, once we have our 3 pieces cut out here, we're going to do the same thing that we did on the sides, and we're going to glue some of these tumbling tower blocks down, and then we will glue those craft sticks to that and the wood planks. Again, this is something I like to do just because it adds a little bit more surface area for you to glue your craft sticks on. So when I originally glued these down, I put 2 tumbling tower blocks on each plank, and then I glued the craft sticks down. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with that because when the planks meet and the craft sticks meet, there's a little seam and they don't connect there. So it is a little bit I guess, flimsy and they can overlap each other. I'll show you in just a minute what I'm talking about. So I did it a little differently on the other side, and I would recommend doing it that way if you're going to do this. So as you can see right here, see how they don't quite fit flush? Right here, I'm going to glue one block on the plank, and then I'm going to glue one block right there in the middle of the seam. That way I can glue the two planks and the two craft sticks together on that, and it will hold it together a lot better. So hopefully that makes sense. It's just a little bit of extra detail that's going to help this look cleaner in the end. And then this right here is kind of what I was talking about. You can see that it flexes and kind of bends past each other. This right here on the other side, since I glued it in the seam, is not going to do that anymore. Since I can glue that down, those are going to fit a lot better together. Now that we have most of this completed, we can move on to gluing the top piece on here and kind of sealing this together and giving the illusion that it's just one solid thick piece of wood instead of just a skinny piece using the planks only. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gluing some of these tumbling tower blocks on the top of the existing blocks that I have on here, and that's going to create a little shelf for our top wood plank piece to sit on and glue down on. So to finish this piece up here, we just need to add some glue on top of those tumbling tower blocks and then slide our top piece on, and that will glue right down on there. Now this is a little bit more in depth of a project, but it's still very simple to do. There's not a lot of cutting or measuring. And then lastly, to finish this off, I'm going to stain it with this early American Minwax stain. Now, depending on the decor that you have going on in your home, you could change this up, do a lighter or darker stain, or even paint the shelf just to go with what you have. Early American is definitely a go-to for us though. We absolutely love that stain. Now on the frames here, you can see that the paint didn't get quite into some of these small crevices. So what I did is just used a smaller brush and some watered down ink paint to go in there and to cover that up. And then once we have all of that painted, the last thing that we need to do is secure this to the wall. So what I'm doing is going to add some screws. Before we do that though, since this is very thin wood, I'm going to drill a couple holes that are a little bit smaller than the screw that I'm using, and then we'll go ahead and screw this into the wall. I just kind of eyeballed here on the top and bottom, put a couple holes, and then we can screw that in. If you want to do actual measurements, you definitely can, but this is a very simple way to get this secured onto the wall.
This project is going to be really easy, and it came out a lot better than I was hoping. So all I did was grab these dowels that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be placing them on top of this gift box, also from Dollar Tree. I kind of just spaced them however I wanted to. If I was to do this again, I would definitely kind of measure it out a little bit more and make it look a little bit more straight. I did have some that curved, so try and get ones that are completely straight. I just went in and did all of the corners first so that I could stand it up to make sure all of the dowels were even in the end. Once I put them on all four corners, I started placing them in the middle, and I set it up so that I could make sure all the dowels were even to the ground. So this one that you can see here, I kind of tilted it at a diagonal a little bit, so it's closer at the bottom than it is at the top, so just be really careful about that. And then I just kept making sure they were about the same distance apart and put them all around all of the sides. If you are ever wondering the supplies that we used, how many, or things like that, you can look in the description below. This is what it looks like when it is finished. I did decide to paint all of it with the Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. I would spray paint it if I was to do this again. Painting it ended up taking a really long time and it didn't cover up all of the texture. So just go in with some matte black spray paint and spray paint the whole thing, probably with 2 or 3 coats.
For this project, we're going to be using one of these little glasses from Dollar Tree, and we're going to go ahead and spray paint it with this matte black spray paint from Krylon. Go ahead and give that a couple coats here so that's completely covered. And then the next part is creating kind of this cube frame using these 6-inch dowels from Dollar Tree. For this cube frame, we're going to use some of these 6-inch dowels from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to be cutting these in half. So if you want to measure in 3 inches, cut one of these, and then you can use one of those halves as a template for your other pieces. You'll need 8 total, and then we're going to do 4 of these vertical pieces, and these are just going to be the length that you want. So if you want this to sit higher or a little bit lower and closer to the ground, then you can do that. I just eyeballed what I thought looked good, cut one of these, and then I use that as a template. You'll need 4 total. And then we're going to go ahead and use our early American stain from Minwax and go ahead and stain all of these pieces. And after we have all of our pieces stained, we can move on to assembling these and gluing them together. So the first thing that we want to do is take some of the 3-inch pieces and start gluing those together to create our bottom square. While gluing these, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the end, connect them, let that dry, and then I'll put some more glue around the seam where those connect just to give it a little bit of extra strength. And then once we have the bottom square complete, we can start gluing the vertical pieces on here. And then if you would like, you can always use some wood glue or E6000 for a little bit stronger of a hold. For the vertical pieces, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just putting a little dab of hot glue there on the bottom. I will press this stick on there, hold it until it's dry, and then I'll go along the bottom here on the seams and put some more hot glue. Something cool that I saw when we were at Sam's Club just a little bit ago was they had a pack with a small hot glue gun and then like a glue pen. So I'm interested to know if anyone's used that. We haven't, but it might be good for some of these tight spaces where you just need a little bit of glue. So let us know in the comments if you guys have ever used those and if you think they're worth getting. Once we have those vertical pieces glued on, we can move on to the top pieces. And these you want to glue on top of the vertical dowels. So what you don't want to do is glue them to the sides because then they're not going to have the support. But if you can glue them on half of the top and then the other wood piece on the other half, that will give each corner a little bit of support so that any weight that we're putting on here from this glass piece is going to be supported a little bit more than if we just glue those to the side. So hopefully that makes sense and you can see that visually. Now, before we finish this up, what we want to do is actually place that glass piece inside of our frame here, and then we can glue these finishing pieces around that since they're going to support it. And if you were to glue it all together first, you wouldn't be able to slide that in there. So put it in place, and then we can glue the last few wood pieces in there to kind of enclose that and hold the glass in place and kind of give it a floating look. And then lastly, what we're going to do here is just add some greenery. Now you could do some succulents, some little tiny plants to go in here. Since it's not very big, I just went with an air plant, but I think it's a really unique, cool looking piece when you're done.
This project, I'm going to be using one of these hanging planters and then just some yarn. You can get yarn from Dollar Tree now, but this is just what I had on hand. I'm going to be cutting a bunch of pieces. I think they ended up being around 13 inches long. I did cut all of my pieces 13 inches long, and I'm going to get a group of 5, fold it over, and then tie it on to the top of this planter. Now you're going to do this all the way across the whole entire top of this planter. Once you are finished, you will want to go in and either hang it up or have someone hold it up for you so that you can cut along the whole bottom and make it completely even. For the light, I'm just going to be using a puck light from Dollar Tree and placing it right in the center.
Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more Dollar Tree DIYs, we have a playlist with a ton of other videos. You can click through right here and check out all of those. I promise you'll like them just as much. And as always, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we upload a new video.